Today we're talking about shipping yourself in a sort of way. We are
Okay.
talking about
Okay.
solo backpacking on a budget.
No, I'm off. I'm getting off. I'm getting off. We're
You were
not
lost on
experiencing,
a
right?
you were lost on a grid. Now we're talking about finding yourself off the grid.
I'm gonna try some of these tips. Sunglasses and headphones so people don't bother you, which I do love. That's
You
maybe my
already do that in this country.
I do, but I'm gonna double down. Double down.
Okay, that is the opposite of relaxing.
Well, that's how I relax, is knowing that everything's safe.
You're like a collie dog. That's like, is everyone here? Is everyone here? Do I need to herd anyone back? Are we all in the group? What's
I've never heard someone describe me better.
We will feel good together.
I love that.
And then you go back to your nice hotel and take a shower, and I'll go back to my vacant train car that I found and sleep.
You have not slept
in
in
the
a vacant train car.
You know, have your wits about you. Travel around just like you would wander around in your own city. Like, be aware of the exits when you walk into a building. Be aware of your surroundings. If somebody's like giving you a weird vibe, like, don't be afraid to hurt their feelings.
Preach.
Whatever, walk away
Yeah.
from them. Like, who cares about them? But also, if you need help, ask for help, because people do want to help you. And then it's great. And then I have a little privacy blanket that I'll like tuck underneath the top bunk, and then it just kind of rolls over down the side, and then I have my own little curtain. And it's great. And earplugs are also really important when you're sleeping in a room with multiple
Earplugs
people.
and eye
'cause
masks.
People snore. I've heard people sleep talk.
I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
No.
We're just getting further and further away from what Jackie's comfortable with.
I've heard privacy blanket, and I don't like those two words together. I'm gonna be honest. Like,
Hi, friends. Welcome to the show. We're experts now. I'm your co-host, Rebecca.
and I'm your other co-host, Jackie. Welcome to another week of We're Experts Now. Wow, I lost my voice during that. That was
Couldn't even make it through the title. That's a good sign. And
listen,
that's the journey. That's how the journey goes sometimes, you know?
and I am at the end of a lot of journeys still, and I'm still exhausted. Although I can't tell the timeline right now, but either in the future or the past, we're going to Boston in the pod, but we still have just gotten back for me. So
Well, don't stop believing.
I stop. That's not who sang that song. That's Journey.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Journey.
Oh,
what do you think I was talking about?
For Boston.
Oh, the band Boston? I don't know any
Yes.
Boston songs. Okay. For a second, I was like really having a crisis of my own music history knowledge. But great miscommunication. I actually loved that.
Okay, and once again, I'm very tired.
Same page.
Same page.
Yeah, we tired, but we're it gives us energy and gives us life to be here experting.
It does not. It just makes me sound dumber and dumber by the day, but that's my gift to you, listeners. Jesus. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Speaking of exhaustion and not using brain cells, we talk about an amateur alert that you went on with me while we were in Boston. We were, we're event planners. We were looking for a certain room in a convention center, and we were just like walking around, like looking for this place. And I kept telling people the number, and like no one knew where it was. And it's like, if you haven't been to a convention center, they are massive. Like, they are multiple city blocks long. And so you're just walking like large size lengths to find each room. And we're carrying all this heavy stuff. And I am getting so frustrated because like each person like doesn't know anything about the building either. So like every person we talk to is like, oh, this is the first time I've been here. And I'm like, why are you at the information booth then? Like, that's like, I'm sorry. As an event planner, don't ever put the person who doesn't know what they're doing at the information booth. Put your most knowledgeable person there, because otherwise you're like, what is the point of this booth?
Or like get there and figure it out. Yeah, I know you're not an expert, but that's the reason you're there, is to figure that information out and have all those questions.
That is your literal job at the information booth. this person didn't have any information. I got super frustrated. I may have sassed a person or two. Not sass, but it just was like very short because I was frustrated at that point. And at a certain point, it's been like 30 minutes and I'm like,
we're still carrying a 40-pound cardboard box around.
And to be clear, I don't think I ever shared this with you, but I will out myself here. I'm wondering at this point, because Rebecca did the calendar hold. I'm like, oh no, actually it wasn't you. No, there was a calendar hold. And I was like, did Rebecca put the calendar hold wrong? And I am like, I'm going to double check this. And then I go and I look, you guys, and I look at the address. And this entire time I've been telling people, and we're in Boston. So if you're a Boston listener, you're going to know how dumb I am. And I am asking everyone for room 02210. And they're sending us all over the place. And I finally realized that I have been looking for the zip code for 30 minutes.
I could have died when I heard that.
You actually did not shame me at all. And like, you could have totally dragged me through the mud at that moment. And you were just like, no, it's okay. We're going to go this way. It's fine. And I was like, thank you. Because I was so upset with myself.
Well, it's like one of those things like what do they say? The cobbler's children go unshod. You know, it's like the very person making the shoes has the worst shoes. The event planners, we've done it all and it's right for everyone else. And we don't have anything left for ourselves. And so like, if you had suspected that I put the wrong information on the calendar, valid, because like, I feel like I also am like, I am an precise versus accurate person. I will have the correct information because I'm only just regurgitating information. So it's correct, but I don't know if it's like on the right place, matched with the right thing. Like sometimes there's some overlap of things, but a freaking zip code. And the fact that like there were rooms in that building that started with 0, as does the zip code for Boston, is also part of the confusion.
And I'm just like, how many people did I ask that were just like, sounds like a room? And like,
but also we passed someone that was a colleague that was like, oh, hey, Jackie, are you going to 0150? And you were like, no, I'm going to 05102 or whatever the zip code is.
It was 052 was the room we were supposed to be going. And I was like, no, we're going to 02210. And the best part is I booked the room. I arranged all of this. Like I put the map in the slides. Like there was no one that should have had it more right than me. The only constellation was that everyone else got very lost going to the room regardless. So I think regardless of whether you were looking for a zip code or a meeting room, it was confusing.
I mean, I think that if we had been looking for the correct information, we would have been pros, but you know, we made a new problem just for ourselves, which is exciting. And then at that point, when we realized I'd walked half a mile carrying the box, and then you'd walked half a mile carrying the box, and then we had to go back, and then I walked another half a mile carrying the box, and then you scooted it half. You know, it was like that box was destroyed.
I wonder if it made it back.
No, I wondered that too.
We shipped it to our colleague.
I shipped it. Put some new tape on it. Shipped it away. Not my problem anymore.
Speaking of shipping, enough of my humiliation and inability to read a calendar hold. I still can't get over how dumb that is. But you couldn't
this week. You couldn't even find the zip code you were in.
I couldn't find the zip code. I was already in the zip code. That's why I was in the right room.
Well, yeah, speaking of shipping and getting to from point A to point B, today we're talking about shipping yourself in a sort of way. We are talking about solo backpacking on a budget.
No, I'm off. I'm getting off.
You were lost on a grid. Now we're talking about finding yourself off the grid.
Okay, so technically, I have done backpacking on a very large budget because I got sent to wilderness camp. Mm-hmm. So I have done backpacking on like the largest budget with therapists.
A government sanctioned budget.
So it's not the backpacking that I'm actually really opposed to. Let's be honest. What is it? The thing that I'm opposed to? It's the budget. It's the budget. Tell me
you don't want to take public trans. You don't want to rub up against the dirty masses.
It's their
Now,
fault for being dirty. Shower and I'll rub up against you. I'm just
Jackie,
being
don't
clear.
be classist.
Okay. I saw a shadow on my shirt and I thought it was like I was
A
like,
poor
God, it's
person?
No, it's not even like poor people. It's I like, especially post hygienic. Like I am incredibly like afraid of germs, right? And then I told you I was at that science fair today, and like
Oh,
all
yeah.
these people, I was like killing it at some Mario Kart, and like okay, it was my niece. I destroyed her, but
Okay, taking candy from baby.
she wanted to go. I was like, this is not the game you want to go with Aunt Jackie. And I
Yeah,
killed her
do
little
not
friend
speak
too.
to me of the old magic. I was there when it was written.
So, yeah, there was like, it's like, I don't like crowds. I get
Agoraphobia.
very anxious. No, agoraphobia is not leaving your house. I used to have that. I got over it. I have claustrophobia now. Well, I've always had it. I really don't like to be like surrounded by people. It makes me really, really anxious. And so it's not actually like the people or whatever, it's the amount of them that are on the train or whatever public transportation that I can't control.
I get that. Yeah, there's like too many what do you call those, liabilities, or like I don't know, possibilities, that kind of thing.
Like as a child of abuse, like everything in life is an equation and I'm trying to figure out how to make it out the safest. And the more like components you put in there, the more I get anxious because I'm like, I can't control that. I can't do this. Like
variables. That's what I was
yes.
I was like, not like yes, variables. Queen. Yeah, I know what you mean. You're like, okay, there's three exits and 5 people wearing hats and 4 people looking shady, and like your brain is just always stressed out calculating.
That's why I'm a great event planner. And like when you talk to me, like when I was the Pride director, like safety was my biggest concern. Like I always wanted to make sure that it was safe more than anything, because like a party's great, but the party's only great if you know that everyone's going to make it out like in a safe, meaningful way when there's, an emergency.
Okay, that is the opposite of relaxing.
Well, that's how I relax, is knowing that everything's safe.
You're like a collie dog. That's like, is everyone here? Is everyone here? Do I need to herd anyone back? Are we all in the group? What's?
I've never heard someone describe me better. Yes, I'm literally. I used to be like with the club mom, come on, chickadees, come, we're going home now. No, you can't bring
him. Did everyone get their shot? Okay, last call. Okay.
Did everyone get that? Okay, no, you can't bring friends. We decided that this morning. No friends tonight. We're not having any sleepovers.
Okay, Jesse, we need both shoes on. Okay, that's both 2 shoes.
Alex, no, Lance, those are my shoes. Take.
Well, yes, this is a whole different realm we're entering. We're entering into the gritty underbelly of not showering and walking places and relying on the kindness of strangers. And actually, that is partially how I came to know this person. I was like, okay, I'm going on this camping trip with friends. It's very cute. I'm glad I met up with a group of friends that wants to camp, because very easy to do so when I lived in Boulder. Did a lot of that in Boulder. A little bit trickier in LA, because what people in LA call a hike is what I call a walk up an incline. And so it's nice to like have a group of friends. It's like, yeah, we're going to get our 2-person tents and we're going to get our sleeping bags and also the 2 people that I went with both had inflatable queen size mattresses. I'm like, I have a blow up twin size insulation pad just for literally to keep me warm. Which are actually
more comfortable than the blow up mattresses. Let's be real, because they also get cold as fuck. And every person who's like, I'm going to be more comfortable in my blow up mattress. I'm like, no, you ain't.
You're going to be sleeping on cold air. I've got the Z pad on the bottom for a little insulation, then the little air one for a little more insulation and comfort. And then you stuff all your dirty clothes in your sleeping bag, and that's your pillow. And your sleeping bag, bag.
Again, we're back to the hygiene, and I definitely.
But I was like, okay, I have like my basics. I have my like survival basics in a nice. I have a through hiking 50 liter with an exoskeleton backpack and like the water pouch pack. I didn't bring that one. I just brought like a big 50 liter like 1 compartment bag, because we're car camping. We're just going to drive to wherever we're putting our tents out. And
I have a question. Are we talking about like traveling, camping, or strictly backpacking? Like,
I think it's going to be more of traveling than just like rugged backpacking. Okay. But
this does change a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then like
in as much as like I wanted to just be proficient in like keeping myself alive out sleeping outside overnight, I was like, I feel like I have the basics covered, but the one thing that's kind of my blind spot, I have like an irrational fear, and maybe some would say it's actually entirely rational, of explosions. This could be opening a champagne bottle. This could be if my pilot light goes out on my stove.
What are you afraid of exploding in the woods?
A camp stove. Okay,
then just don't get a camp stove.
Butane little container thing, but it's like you need coffee. I need, maybe like fire. I need. Yes. Well, I had looked up the rules for this campsite, and the rules were like, there's one one fire, bring your own wood. It's it's like not next to the tents. So I was like, okay, well, this will be my test. I will like get my little butane canister, and I have my little, fold out stove piece, and I'm going to just put them together and make my coffee and make my dehydrated lasagna for dinner and make my oatmeal for breakfast. And I never had to test myself because our guest expert materialized with like a, huge range and like just all of the tools in a nice Ford Ranger. Like a Vision.
I also have all of the tools, and this is the first time we're ever going to reference this cloth. Okay, well, actually.
Oh, we're getting a field
you guys
trip.
See behind the magic.
Ooh, okay. What's behind door number 1?
Well, no. This door is to the scary attic where the murderers live.
Right.
Remember, did I open that up for you? That's the scary murder.
No, because I slept. Wait, maybe. Okay, good. Glad I've slept in this house knowing there's murderers up there.
This one. God, this is so hard.
Okay. Mirroring.
This, yeah, but like finding, like, because like the angles and I'm not going to get spatial reason. So, okay. Because I keep trying to point that way, and I need to point more this way. That's it. I need to
perception.
I've been trying to do this. Yes. Oh God. Okay. If someone could come on the show and tell us how to do that. Okay. So this one, that's where all my camping gear is. And I have pretty much anything that you could want because it's me. And I have every little trinket that you could buy because I have probably a decently severe spending addiction at this point.
But that is like the kind of thing about minimalism is if you have the one really well-made thing, then yeah, you can do it. But sometimes it's hard to like get by on a budget because you're like, well, I could get this really nice camping range, but I kind of can't afford it. So instead I'm going to get this smaller thing, but then I'll need this extra tool to do this other job that the all-in-one would be 4 times the price. And I'm just going to like get the small pieces. But I think we're also going to be talking about like, traveling alone through Europe. Or like through another country, or like
this country, even people do
this country, even like train. I don't think this person.
We're not talking about trains,
but taking a train.
No,
I love a train. I actually really want to do a trip. I want to do is from San Francisco to Denver to New York. Because that's like a major trade route. Yeah. And I think it would be really beautiful to see. I know
some people who have done that and they really enjoyed it. They all really, really liked it. I don't think I would like it for that long because it's like a whole week. I could probably do like the one of those legs, the California to Denver or the Denver to Florida, or the Denver to New York. But I think, and I would probably prefer to do California to Denver. I feel like that's going to be a really, really pretty route. Whereas like Oklahoma, Utah, Denver Kansas are all going to be less exciting. I gotta look at a map.
The scenery might not change that much. It's just kind of like plains. Although I don't know, but I also something I think about too in solo traveling is just like being a woman traveling alone, and also like knowing. Are you going to brush up on languages before you go to certain countries? Are you going to come up against any sort of like morality laws you need to be aware of, like covering your hair or skin in certain ways, and like the type of the season it is, and what kind of activities you want to do. Also, I remember in pandemic, one thing a lot of my friends were doing was going to Hawaii. I know it kind of became like a hot button issue and sort of problematic, but it was like, well, maybe we can actually like help this this tourism economy out by going there, but it's like a largely outdoor centric place. We don't have to like rely on going to restaurants, shops, indoor places. We can hike, we can go to the beach, we can like be outdoors and like stay distant.
I think that like, so I've traveled extensively, and a lot of it was by myself. Like I did 3 weeks in Europe, and I certainly did not backpack. Let's be real. I flew and I took a train, but I would not backpack. And that was, again, like I've mentioned this in a previous episode, I'm, a survivor of sexual assault. So like I was never even comfortable. Like I knew I would never be able to sleep in a room with other people. So even a hostel has never been an option for me, because I really struggle to sleep in new places as it is, like, or if like I sleep next to somebody I've never slept with, it takes me a really long time to be able to sleep ever. Like, and I don't mean like that night, I mean like for weeks, it takes me a long time to figure it out. So like for me, solo travel always, like I did it on a budget, but I was like taking cheap flights. I was like staying in like really cheap Airbnbs, but I think my cost was still like, I mean, now it's insanely low, but I think I went to Europe on like a total of like 3 weeks for $3,000. So that's actually like pretty cheap. Like, obviously, I'm sure if you're backpacking and like staying in hostels, you probably did significantly less money than me. But I think that's like, when you were mentioning like being a woman and traveling, that is something like I've always really struggled with, and like finding safety. Like, and for me, that's like, I would rather just spend the money and stay somewhere by myself and like know that I'm safe. And like that's created other problems for me. So it's like hostels are a great way to meet people.
Yeah.
Like it's like really awesome to like find your crew. And so I've gone on a lot more Tinder dates in other countries because of that. And I do a lot of research. Like, like there are certain countries that I will not wear my jewelry. There are certain countries where I do cover my hair. There are certain countries where I just dress more conservatively, like not necessarily covering my hair, but I wouldn't wear like a low cut top.
Right.
And like, there's a lot of places where, and I will say this, and I don't know about this for our guest, where in Europe, traveling by myself was almost like more of a perk because I wasn't speaking. And therefore I wasn't like, there's a lot of pickpocketing in Europe the last like 10 years. So I don't think I was ever really a target because you didn't hear me speak. You just assumed that I was
less of an opportunity to give yourself away.
Yeah, what's this weirdo walking by themselves? They must live here, not be a solo traveler, like totally by themselves, right? Like, and I think in that sense, it kind of made me less of a target in places where I could visually fit in. Obviously, when I was in Africa, it was harder for me to fit in. And that's, that's another consideration. And that's why, for me personally, I did buy long skirts and I only wore skirts while I was there. I did buy things to cover my hair, even though I was told I did not have to. In most situations, I chose to do that to be respectful as someone visiting a different country, and as someone who like visibly does not fit in there. I think that it's my responsibility to do as much as possible to try and respect that culture, whatever that may be. So I do think a lot of research, but it's a lot different when you're going home every night and staying by yourself, right? Like, I think a lot of backpackers make friends, stay in people's houses sometimes. Like,
yeah.
Is it okay for a woman to shake another man's hand, or to like come out of the shower in a towel, like just running to your room? Like in some countries that could be so disrespectful.
That just reminded me of an amateur alert, which I guess I'm not going to burn it right now. So that'll be a teaser for a future episode.
Save it for it'll probably be the next episode, guys. So she'll tell you later.
Yeah, there's a teaser for next episode. Something about a story about me in a towel. Ooh.
Ooh. But I think that's like, you're right. Like that when you are staying in closer quarters with people or in someone's home, like my friend's brother traveled the world backpacking, and it was called couchsurfing.com. And you could just go on there, and like people are offering their couch or a room in that. This is before Airbnb, anything. This was like, I don't know if it's still around, but he's traveled the world saying that. And like, you would want to be careful of someone's culture if you're going into their house.
Yeah, I have only done one solo trip. This was my summer abroad in España, and I lived in. I bought a round trip ticket through Barcelona, and that in and of itself was like $2,000. And then I ended up finding, I feel like we always have like the Reddit track of experts. For me, there was like other websites for traveling specific things. There's a lot of them I know, but I used Intercambio. Interexchange. I forget. Yeah, in Spain, I forget. There's like the Intercambio experience that people talk about a lot. But I think the website is actually just called Interexchange. But it was just like any language, any first language speakers, like if English is your first language or Spanish or whatever desired language, you can match with someone who wants their kids, say, to learn that language, and then you just kind of like are au pair light, like 15 hours a week, not full-time commitment, but just like a little bit of childcare. And mostly just like conversational language practice with them. And they give you room and board and 2 meals a day. And I lived in Madrid with this like nice, wealthy family, and we played football and tennis, and just, it was such a lovely experience. And then while I was there, I knew it was going to be up. I was there the whole summer, so I knew that was only going to be a month and a half. And I did a quick trip to Berlin for a week and a quick weekend trip through Portugal. And then I had found through Workaway, another website that matches you up with people who just want like a laborer that, you're going to be working under the table, basically either volunteer or for an exchange of like room and board, sometimes money. I saw some very specific requests, like when I was looking for job matches on there for like someone who's looking for like a skilled therapist to work with their nonverbal autistic son and help build their greenhouse, like a random combination of things that they're like, we just want someone to just like do this labor for us and pay less than we would pay a skilled worker to do all these things. But I ended up getting matched with a hostel and then like the mountainous region of Spain, where it was like I went from big city Madrid to like 12-person little village and rode horses and made hummus every day. And that, I feel like that's such a it was, I don't know. I always thought of myself as a very open-minded person, but it's like until you really see that what you think of as common sense and normal and typical, it just like everything you take for granted is just your conditioned experience. And there are just so many other types of people and ways of life out there. And I think everyone should have their solo adventure experience once in their life, at least.
Oh, I agree. Like, I think traveling by myself has taught me more about myself over the years than like anything else. Like, right. Like I did 3 weeks in Europe by myself. I've done countless other like short trips or long trips by myself, like not as kind of monumental. And then I did that 4-month road trip, right? Like, again,
Yeah.
I did Airbnbs, not hostels. I was in my own car. Like, again, like that has to deal with like a lot of like my fears. Like, right. Like I just could never say. I also, God, it sounds so crazy. I also am like really, really afraid of bed bugs because like I've had family members who have dealt with them quite a bit.
Yep.
And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Don't go to
And,
France right now.
But it's like, it's everywhere. Like my mom's worked in apartments and like those have been like, not necessarily ones that she's lived in or worked in, but like a complex down the street of one that she'll work in, like we'll have a bed bug outbreak and like, it's really bad. So like I've a lot of like neuroses and I'm aware of that. It makes me sound more bougie than I am, but it's really fear-based.
Well, as someone who had bed bugs, it sucks. It stinks. It's like you can't sleep. It's like they know you're going to sleep and they're like, the blood is settled. Time to feast. Like that's when they start biting.
No,
I had to give away everything I owned. I just moved out and never looked back. This was in Philadelphia. And then when I was in Spain, the hostel that I mentioned that was in the small mountain village, like every hostel had bed bugs. And there was three of us hosteleros working there, and we had a rotating duty. And one duty was just to lance bed bugs, you just got a sewing needle and a piece of toilet paper, and you just went around and just speared as many bed bugs as you can. Thankfully, because I was the only one who knew how to ride a horse, I only had to do that twice, and then I was just on horse duty. So have a special skill when you're traveling abroad, and that can help you out.
What if your special skill is lancing? Okay, I don't want to say it anymore. It's really disgusting. So I'm really grossed out by a lot of things, and
you know what I learned? I'm not grossed out by hair. I can unclog a drain all day, no problem. But for some
Hair
reason, one of the
doesn't bother
girls
me.
was just like, she couldn't even think. And I was like, yeah, it's gross, but like, I don't know. It just is like
Well,
dead.
it's the hair that's been sitting at the bottom of the drain that grosses me out. Like, if it's just a clump of hair on the ground, whatever. If it's hair that's been sitting at the bottom of, no, that's a pass for me. But I think, okay, so I think doing this on a budget, let's be real, I think there is an initial like upkeep that you have to, or like deposit that you have to make in buying some of the stuff. Like having like a meal kit, right? Like a little plate and bowl and all of that is going to be really helpful. You want to buy a good one. You don't want to continue to buy those. Most backpackers I know are very green. You're going to want to have like your Nalgene bottle. You're going to want to have like all of like, your bedroll, your change of clothes. So I think there's like a smaller initial cost, but compared to like, my suitcase and all the things that go in the suitcase.
Yeah, you need your travel go bag that's like outdoor equipped, things you need to account for. The thing that I am so often grateful for is like just hot water.
Yeah.
Like boiling water to make my coffee, boiling water to boil an egg, to make food, having hot water to shower in. Like that makes such a difference. So when you're not going to have access to electricity, it's like, yeah, how do you account for that? Are you going to be using, your sort of like propane or like fuel to make fire? Are you going to use wood? Do you know how to start a fire? Do you know how fire safety? And then are you going to have clean water and access to that? And how are you using that? And yeah, there's a lot of, and then there's the things where you're like, well, I'm not going to take a shower. Actually, I'm going to be without shower for X amount of days.
I cannot. I need to shower every day. I hate, well, we've talked about this. Like I have to shower. So I think that you also have to be like a type of person, right? Like my hair and all of the stuff that it takes me to like, just feel like me every day, like not going to fit into a backpack. It's just not, right? And I've been the type of person who is like still like way less maintenance with the hair and the makeup, but just like the things it takes to make me happy every day, like I need a lot. So,
and don't you wear contacts?
No.
Oh, okay.
I wear glasses. I used to wear them a lot more before my surgery, just because like things were less great back then. I don't need glasses.
I just imagine touching your eyes is gonna be a no-no when you're outside a lot.
Yeah, you gotta wear glasses. I again, something I couldn't do is put contacts in. I don't think I could do that. So,
well, we're gonna find a lot from our contact and everything they've learned, their wisdom of making it alone out there on the road, bindle in hand, and the stars above.
Okay. Let's go backpacking.
Let's go backpacking. Welcome back to the pod. We're experts now. Today we're joined by a very special guest, a fan of the podcast who is now a guest, and that could be you too, listener, if you want to become a future expert on our show. Today we're joined by friend of the pod, Mel. Mel, take it away. Tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, I'm Mel. That's about it. Let's see. I live in LA and I backpack all the time, or I travel a lot. Whenever I'm not working, I'm traveling, so I'm rarely home. I grew up traveling, and that's kind of just like, it kind of started off as just like a thing that I was forced to do by family members, of just kind of being dragged all over the place, unwillingly, but then it just kind of became like my lifestyle and the way that I prefer to go about things is just to explore new places, or even explore places that I'm in all the time. So yeah, that's me.
That's something Jackie and I have been
doing
recently. Like exploring the hometown thing that you never go to because it's just like, oh, that's my town. I'm not going to go to Alcatraz or the Alamo or what have you.
I had never been.
You'd never been to Alcatraz? I think I've been to Alcatraz. I think I was a child, but I'd like to go back.
I was 35 and it was a couple months ago. Bex and I went to jail together. We always knew it would happen. We just didn't know it would be on the podcast. So
You know, it's got to start somewhere. Did you see any ghosts?
No, but I felt it like I felt some real bad energy in there. Like we went into the cells, the like solitary confinement
Oh
cells, and I
yeah.
was like, "Ooh, this vibe is
Oh yeah, those
bad."
places don't
So
feel good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jackie is definitely team ghost and Mel's trying to get me there. So, I
mhm,
did feel
mhm.
You'll get
some
there.
energies at Alcatraz.
Yeah.
I don't
Mhm.
appreciate your sarcasm.
That was sincere.
Okay, my first question, already got one. Did your family backpack or was this just traveling that they enjoyed to do?
So my family, we moved around a lot, and we moved to places that going on little road trips and whatnot was kind of the way that we would travel a bit. But I was born in LA and then grew up in Florida and then moved back to LA. But I was flying back and forth the entire time, so I would travel all over to kind of see family, and then when I would visit those family members, we would just take little road trips. But I grew up hearing stories from my dad of him just like going to South America with a plan of being in South America for 2 weeks, and then he left 6 months later. So like those are the stories that I grew up with, mostly on my dad's side, and I always wanted to be like my dad. So I heard those stories, but I was just kind of started traveling with family, and then as soon as I got a car, I was gone all the time.
I'm very much the same way. Like I actually was born in California, moved to Florida, and then moved back to California, which is kind of
Oh, wild.
ironic. And like we moved quite a bit too. Like and even if it was like a lot around the Bay Area or whatever, I think that like I don't understand the like roots of like when people are like, "Oh yeah, like the family home." I'm like, I don't know what you mean. Like I've
Yeah,
never
I don't
experienced
have a
that.
family home. I have like
Yeah, same.
13 family homes. I don't know.
Right.
And that's also, do you move around a lot as an adult?
I have. Like I've actually moved over like 30 something times in the last few years. I've really had to like actively choose to put down roots because it was something that I like always wanted and now I still travel extensively, but I'm like, "Oh, I want to be close to my brother," and I like moved to the back to the Bay Area to be close to them. And so but I had to make that choice. It's very weird for me. Like my last apartment was the longest I've lived somewhere since I was in high school.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that would move around every like 4 to 6 months. And then the last place that I lived, I had to make that conscious decision of just like, we're staying here for a minute. And then I stayed there for like almost 5 years, and that was mind blowing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Jackie, now that, you are someone who travels for work a lot, I feel like you tend more towards the bougie type of travel, a little more of the comforts.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm curious to hear well, you heard our part one. We were speculating on some things you can do and some things you need, but what's your like basic starter kit of going on
Yeah.
a trip?
My basic starter kit of going on a trip. You guys brought up a point earlier of, is it better to invest in something good one time or just kind of like go with it? And I think that there are some things that are really good to invest really well in once. And one of those is like, if you're traveling somewhere, everything that you have has to fit into your bag. And if you're going to a place like Europe or South America or something like that, somewhere where countries are just like really small and really close together, you're probably going to go to more than one country or at least more than one city. So everything you have has to be in that bag or that suitcase. I pretty much, even in the United States, only travel with like a rucksack backpack kind of a thing, just like a big backpack, and I'll go somewhere for a month and a half, and everything I have will fit into that. So I would say my very basics are a good backpack, and then a good little day bag so you can leave your backpack in your hostel or wherever you're going,
Mm.
but you just have like a good bag with a little zipper on it so it's not like something that's open for pickpockets to snag because they're very good at what they do. I think that's important to have. I always have a little tiny sewing kit in an Altoids container because there have been so
Interesting.
many things that I need to like. I've had to sew my pants back together or shirts back together. I've had to sew little things on my bag itself to like keep it from falling apart or like parts of the strap. So a little sewing kit. A little first aid kit is really helpful as well. because if you're going somewhere in the jungle and there's a lot of mosquitoes around and you're going on a hike, you're probably going to get bit by those mosquitoes. So if you have a little thing of anti-itch cream with you, you could just rub that on you and then put some Band-Aids on it that you've brought. And then when you're out walking, your shoes aren't rubbing up against these little itchy bumps on you, and then they're not going to get cut open and they're not going to get infected, so you're not going to get sick.
I'm going to be real.
So I think
between the two things that you have already named,
off to a great start.
Sewing kit and first aid kit, like I got like half a backpack. Okay, like you're like, oh,
you
I
can
have
go
it.
far with half a backpack.
No, I mean like I can.
Oh, that would fill half your bag.
Yes.
Oh, wild.
I can't. Like
I like the Altoids can repurpose for the sewing kit. Okay,
it's
and
great.
Then some box of Band-Aids.
No, you gotta have like a couple Band-Aids. You can't have a whole box if you're fitting it in a small bag.
Yeah, you just have like a couple different sizes of each Band-Aid, some anti-itch cream, maybe some Neosporin. You don't want to bring pain meds because they have better pain meds in other countries, honestly.
Okay,
Wait, other countries do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like in Europe, you can get like over-the-counter codeine.
Okay.
So that's a great reason to travel if you're looking for some access to low-price meds.
Man, you had a headache? I got you. Just send me to Europe. What else I think is really important? A water bottle, like a reusable water bottle. I have kind of a water bag. It's basically made out of the same material that comes in the little camel bag, but then it just like has a little screw top on it. So it's not like something huge and cumbersome. When you're like drinking, you can kind of just like stick it in a pocket when it gets like smaller and just makes life easier. That's important. Sunglasses are always important, mostly because like I think when you're traveling to a place, you know, everybody is always worried about getting bothered by another person or something. But if you're wandering through somewhere confidently, nobody's going to bother you because you look like you belong in that place. And if you have sunglasses, nobody can tell that you're looking around you. Like, where am I? I have no idea where I'm going. So sunglasses are a great screen. Also, I have very sensitive eyes, so I always need them to be covered by something.
Same. I actually have the same, like,
right?
Just act like you know what you're doing. And when you're alone, you aren't speaking. So people don't, like, unless you're visibly not from that country, like, you know, when you're in Africa, it's a little bit harder to, like, fit in, right? But, like, in Europe, I just don't talk and I wear sunglasses. And people just assume I'm one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Sunglasses are great. Headphones are great. So you truly just look like you know where you're going. Even if, before I leave my hostel, I'll look at a little map and just kind of be like, okay, I want to make a left right out of this front door, go down 3 blocks, make a right. The bus stop is the first one on the left. I want to go north, not south. Don't make that mistake. Go that direction, like know how many stops you want to get off of. But that can be a lot to remember. So if you're listening to music and you have your map going at the same time, so that way you're not consistently checking your phone and people don't get the hint that like, oh, this person has no idea where they're going. You can just turn on the little annoying voice on your phone. So when you're walking, it's just like, okay, make a left at this Dutch street that you're best of luck to you, child, kind of a thing. So I think that that's really helpful. Let's see, what are some other really good things that I like to bring with me? I pack super light.
Chapstick.
Like if I'm going to go somewhere for a month, I'm going to pack like maybe 5 shirts and 2 pairs of pants and a pair of shorts.
What are you saying?
Like some socks. I pack so light. Well, because, you know, you can do laundry in the places that you are. A lot of hostels will let you do laundry for free. And if they charge you a price, I was at a hostel recently that they said it was $8 per load. And that was offensive.
And you brought your secret skeleton key for free washing machine time?
No, but I would do that. I would do that.
What?
So I haven't paid for laundry in any building that I've lived in probably the last 5 years, because one time I was doing the laundry in my last building and it ate all of my quarters, and I called my landlord over because I was like, you're going to get me back my $1.25. And she came over and she had this little skeleton key and just like unlocked part of the top of the washer and pressed a little button and then closed it, and it gave me a free wash. And I was just like, oh. So I've bought that for a few different washers and dryers, and it's like $12 to start, basically. But like, that's like a month or a month and a half's worth of laundry. So I have not paid for laundry in like 5 years.
That's smart. I like it. I also do a lot more laundry than you, I can already tell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like that.
five shirts and 4 pairs of pants. Yeah.
That's like what I go through in a day.
That 4 pairs of pants, that's way too much. 2 pairs of
Too
pants.
much. Oh,
I will wear pants until they smell
Mm-mm.
not bad,
but not
but
good.
then I'll yeah. Do you wash your pants every time? Are you like a wear it once and then wash them?
Not all
No.
my pants, but like my shirts, absolutely.
But
Yeah, I'll
maybe
do that.
maybe 2
So
or
I'll
3.
do laundry every 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, 2 or 3 washes. I'm with you, Bex. But I wear multiple outfits a day most of the time.
I changed my shirt today for this. So that's my multiple outfit.
Thank you for the effort. I am on number 4.
You know, and I appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
Another thing that you're gonna hate that I'll do is I'll bring like quick drying underwear.
Oh God.
And I always have
Camp
I
underwear.
have 2 carabiners with me, those little like clippy things that you could just hang shit from. And then I'll bring a little length of like thin rope. And if I need to like wash some underwear, if I like go on a hike and I'm like, oh no, it's not been 5 days and I've gone through 5 or 6 pairs of underwear from just like hiking or whatever, like you can buy from REI. It comes in like a little Listerine kind of packet, and it's like laundry sheets. So you can like wash your like some laundry. You could wash your like underwear in the sink or whatever and like rinse it out, clean it out, and it's clean.
Mm-hmm,
and then you just kind of make a little like drying line in your hostel bunk and just like hang your things up, and it'll be dry in like 15 minutes. And then you have dry clean underwear.
Okay. Is quick drying underwear like a thing, or is this just like trial and error? Okay.
I've definitely seen it at REI or like camping stores where it's like wicking or something.
I don't think
it's like moisture wicking underwear.
We're not really selling Jackie on the solo travel lifestyle.
No, Jackie's never gonna travel this year. Not in the like grungy backpacker lifestyle. I will also bring like a little travel size thing of the perfume that I wear because I want to smell nice. I might not always be clean.
I do too.
I want to smell nice.
We meet there together. See? Yeah, I like.
We will smell good together.
I love that.
And then you go back to your nice hotel and take a shower, and I'll go back to my vacant train car that I found and sleep.
You have not slept in a vacant train car.
You can come stay at the hotel with me.
No,
that's fine. I'll pay for it.
Well, that's like.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'll sleep on the floor.
That's probably another tip, right? Of like make friends.
That's what Bex did.
Yeah, and I've done that. I've like one time I was traveling around Europe and I had the determination to do everything as cheaply as possible. And I was like, okay, well what is the cheapest way that I can do this and see the most countries that I can? So I would book whatever was longer. And I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I wanted the longer journey. I would book, if it was a longer bus ride or a longer train ride, I would book the overnight bus ride between other countries. So I could just like sleep on the bus or on the train overnight and then wake up in another country. And a lot of hostels, you can just do like a 24-hour bag drop. So you can go to a country for that afternoon or that night or whatever and pay like 5 to 15 euros and just drop your bag off in a locker, and it's safe. So then you can just like wander around that country for the day. But I went to do that in Prague, and I heavily misjudged what time I was going to get there. And it was in January. And I got there at 4 a.m. in the middle of a snowstorm. And the hostel that I went to was locked. But when I was on my bus on the way up, I noticed that there was a hotel down the street. So I was like, in my head, I like clocked the hotel, and then I was walking to the hostel, and I was just like, okay, plan B, if this hostel is closed, because some of them say they're 24-hour, and that's a lie. 24-hour does not mean that there's somebody at a desk 24 hours. 24 hours means that you can unlock a door 24 hours a day, which should be a thing. So it's like, if that doesn't work, then I'm going to walk down the street and try and go to this hotel. And if that doesn't work, Prague is like secretly one of the biggest party
Oh,
towns
yeah.
in the world, and I'm just gonna find like a bar and go to a bar until sunrise with all my things, and then wait for the sun to come up. And by the time the sun comes up, somebody's gonna be at this desk, and then I'm just gonna drop my bag and wander around. But I was trying to get in, nobody was there, and I turned around to walk down the street, and I see this guy walking up the street, and he is staying at the hostel, and he's American because he was just like, "Oh, are you trying to get in?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's locked, so I got to figure something out." And he was like, "Oh, I'm staying here," and he couldn't unlock the door with his key, and he like had sheer panic in his eyes because he was just like underprepared for everything. And I have a giant bag on me, and I'm wearing like a huge parka that goes down to my knees. And we have a conversation and decide, okay, well, we'll just go down the street to this hotel and rent a room at the hotel. And if that doesn't work, then we're just going to stay up and drink together all morning, I guess. And basically, he was there with a group of his guy friends. He and his friends do a guys' trip every year. And they all got separated at 3 in the morning for no reason other than their own foolishness. Like, one just jumped on a bus and waved goodbye to them as the bus drove away. Another one just like ran in another direction. Another one just like vanished. So then the guy that I was talking to was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to find out how to get home. And none of them had working phones because they didn't want to pay for the roaming charges. But everywhere in Europe has free Wi-Fi.
Yep.
So like you
That's
could handle it if you have your shit together, and they just did not. Yeah, everywhere in Europe has free Wi-Fi. You can just turn your Wi-Fi on and wander around and your phone will work. So he was like, he and I went to walk down the street, and as we were walking down the street, one of his friends was walking up the street, just like yelling his name because he didn't know where he was, and he didn't want to turn roaming on his phone because he was like, I'm trying to be cheap. Basically, long story short, one of the guy's brothers opened up the hostel door. We were all trying to open the wrong door, and I just like crashed in one of their spare beds that night because they rented out an entire top suite of the hostel because there was 5 of them and it came with 6 beds, and they didn't want to share a room with anyone else. So you could do that.
That is the kind of magical
yeah.
thinking that I don't know if I could be calm enough to navigate that situation. I'd be like, I don't have a plan. What am I doing?
I was the unprepared dude at one point. Like, I got lost in Amsterdam, accidentally stole a bus ride, had 2 giant bags I'm carrying behind me. My phone dies, and I've written down the address of the Airbnb. And at that point, I didn't know that like the number of the apartment is like attached to like the house number. Like, so I didn't know that. So I'm walking around looking for like 5675 when really I'm looking for 75 apartment number 56 or whatever it was. And so I like walk up to this guy on the street, and I was like, do you know where this is? It's where I'm supposed to be staying tonight. Like, totally asking to get murdered. And the guy just looks at me and he's like, it's right there. You're it.
It's right.
Oh, great.
You're home.
That's
You're
good
home safe.
news.
Well, the thing about traveling is I think Americans, we have this preconceived idea that like, oh, don't talk to anybody and don't travel by yourself if you're a female or a queer person because everybody's out to hunt you. And like that is mostly true in America. That's not necessarily always true in other parts of the world. Like people in other countries are very community based, and they want to help you and they want to talk to you and they're curious about you and they care about you simply because you're a human being. So it's one of those fine lines of just like, you know, have your wits about you, travel around just like you would wander around in your own city. Like, be aware of the exits when you walk into a building, be aware of your surroundings. If somebody is like giving you a weird vibe, like don't be afraid to hurt their feelings. Don't like whatever, walk away from them. Like, who cares about them? But also, if you need help, ask for help because people do want to help you. People in other countries, like, they care about you and they want to help you, and they also like don't want you to go home with this terrible story about their home and where they live, you know, just because maybe you as a traveler like didn't have it together. So just like have conversations with people. Don't be afraid to meet people, but also like don't blindly put your faith in everybody around you like I sometimes have. Truly, the reason I am alive right now is pure luck.
Same.
It is not much more than luck. Another thing also that I'll bring with me when I'm traveling is I have a little roll-up camping pad that's like for backpacking, and like the backcountry, it's like folds up really small, really tiny, because you'll go to a hostel and sometimes the bed isn't the most comfortable. So I'll blow up my little camping mattress and put it on top of my regular mattress, and then it's great. And then I have a little privacy blanket that I'll like tuck underneath the top bunk, and then it just kind of rolls over down the side, and then I have my own little curtain. And it's great. And earplugs are also
Ooh,
really important when you're sleeping in a
yes.
room with multiple
Earplugs and
people
eye
because people
masks.
snore. I've heard people sleep talk.
I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
No.
We're just getting further and further away from what Jackie's comfortable with.
I've heard privacy blanket, and I don't like those two words together. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah. It's just like a little, and it can be used for so many things. You can take it down in the day and then go out for a picnic somewhere in a beautiful park with a beautiful view, and then you come back and you bring it back in your day pack and you just like hang it back up, and then like you got your own little cave.
I'm gonna be real, like this is who I want to be, like deep down. Like every time I'm walking around the country with like 46 bags and like stressed out because I'm also trying to carry my fucking latte or whatever, like I'm like, why do I make these choices? Like it would be so much better if, but then I'm like, yeah, but I'm celiac and I got sensitive skin and I got, you know, like I have a work
I have
laptop.
sensitive skin, so I need 35 bags.
I have a work laptop and a personal laptop, and then I might want my iPad. Like there's no way I'm ever going to be able to accomplish it. Like it's not going to happen.
Oh, here's what
Well, you know, it's good to know
Thank
your
you.
limits.
yeah, and I
we'll
want to
support
know
you.
like why do you travel? Like do you like, oh, I just want to like sow my wild oats, hook up with a stranger in a strange land? Are you like historically interested in some region? Are you like language? Like what is the like, how do you pick your journeys?
I think that the world is a really incredible place. I think it's a really beautiful place. And I just get so excited about just the world itself. I mean, look at California, for example. You drive in an hour in any direction and the terrain looks completely different. Like you look like you're in a different state half the time. So I think that the world is just like beautiful and wild, and I just want to see it. I love history. So I like going to places that are really old just because it feels different to be in a place that is that old, that you can, you know, walk down the street. Like it's wild walking down the street in Rome because you look to the left and there's the Colosseum, and then you look to the right and there's apartment
Right?
complexes. And to just like wander around a place that's that old is incredible. It's wild. So just to be able to be in those places, I think, is a gift. And when you're in those places, it teaches you a lot about yourself, especially if you're traveling by yourself. Because when you go somewhere alone with only the things on your back, you are completely self-reliant. There is nobody there that will help you. I mean, aside from maybe like somebody, if you're like, hey, how do I get to this place, you know, or whatever, you are 100% responsible for yourself. And that can be a really scary thing and a really intimidating thing, but also you are enough. And you have the tools to get through whatever situation you're going to be in, whatever situation you're put in, whatever situation you find yourself in. Like you have the tools and the know-how to get yourself out of a sticky situation and to come back from, you know, wherever far away land you're in, and to come back to your normal place and your normal routine of what you're comfortable with and where you're comfortable with. You just come back with this kind of like renewed and humbled sense of confidence of just like, no, I am enough and I can do this, whatever this is, whatever obstacle is in front of me in this place of complete familiarity. Like I can handle whatever's thrown at me here because I can handle whatever was thrown at me there. And sometimes nothing bad happens, and that's amazing. But you still have the sense of just like, oh, I went there and I did this thing, and now I know that I can be here and I can do this thing. So I think it's just like, I like to travel a lot just because I'm so curious about things around me and the way that people work. And you go to another place and you think like, oh, I need all of these creature comforts to be happy and to be comfortable and to have what I have and to do well. Jackie. And then you go to this other place where people are happier than you and they have half the things that you have.
Less
And
than
you're just
that.
like, oh, I don't need all of these things. Yeah, or like, here's a different way to do this, or here's a different way to think about this thing that I'm faced with every day. Just like, it's just a learning experience, really.
How do you-
that like
so that's why I like
I
to
think that like
travel.
I also like I'm such a people pleaser that like that was something that for me when I travel solo was something that very self-reflective of learning about myself, because I woke up in the morning and I was like, no, you have to decide what you're doing. Like, you can't be like, oh, what do you want to do? Okay, yeah, that sounds fine. Like, let's go do that. And I think I had never given myself like that permission to choose like every day and to not do things for everybody else. And that was like you were saying, like finding kind of like yourself and coming back with confidence. That was like what it really gave me. It was like permission to come home and say, no, I want to do like, I don't want to go to this restaurant with you. Like, I actually would just rather stay home and feed myself this way or whatever it is.
But how do you pick the place? Do you go off of like the weather, the cheapest flight, someone you know, a place you've never like?
So it's a place I've never been. It's a combination of things. Before I leave to go to another place, I'll have kind of a rough outline of where I want to go. Like, I'll land in this country, and then I'm just like, what are the closest, most interesting countries right around this country that I've never been to? And I'm like, oh, well, that place is really interesting. This place over here seems really interesting. I've never been to this place over here, but I've heard a lot about it. So I'll have maybe 4 countries that I want to travel to, or that is like my idea of where I'm going to travel to. So I'll land in country number 1, and I'll have a hostel booked for 3 days. And I'll have the plan of going to country number 2, but I'll spend the day that I land there just like meeting people and wandering around and checking things out and doing some research on the next place that I want to go to. But if I meet a few people that night that are just like, oh, where are you going? And then I tell them where I'm going, and they say, oh, instead of going here, you should check out this other place that's like kind of over here. This is really cool. Here's some really cool things to do over here. So I'll have that flexibility, and if enough people tell me enough interesting things, then I'll like research that spot a little bit. When I go back to my bed that night, I'll just kind of like stay up and Google some things and figure it out and be like, oh, is this actually a place you want to go to? And then I'll allow myself that flexibility to just say like, okay, well, this other place seems really cool, but this place seems really cool. So I'm going to see what the cheapest way to get over there is. And if that sometimes is a flight on Ryanair, or if that is like an overnight bus ride, so then I'm also just like saving money on a hotel for that night, or if that's a train ride because everybody travels by train in Europe, like what's the cheapest and fastest way for me to get there, and how long would I want to be in this place? Because if I want to only be there for 2 days, it might be more financially responsible for me to pick a slightly more expensive and faster way to get there so that I can just like explore that place rather than waste 27 hours of my time just like kind of wandering around a place like a zombie. So I'll have a very loose guide for myself, but I'll just remain open and see what people say and talk to the locals and where have the locals been, because that's their way of life, is just traveling all over the place. So you just meet people and then change your mind based off of that. And it's really freeing because you open yourself up to so many more possibilities and so many more things by just kind of being open and curious.
Wherever the wind takes you.
So truly, it has taken me some random places, but yeah, it's pretty fun. Also, something really important to know is when you're going to another country, know the emergency, like their 911. Like, always know what the emergency numbers are, because if you're in a place and something happens and you dial 911, it's not going to help you unless you're in America. So like, know their emergency numbers and always have a backup battery charger for your phone, because sometimes outlets and hospitals don't work.
That's the perk of staying in a hotel, okay? That's what you get, a working outlet.
What did I just think of that I was like, how would you, I don't know.
Well, what are some favorite spots that you've been? Like, what are your like highly recommends?
I love Prague. I think Prague is wild. I am obsessed with Prague. I think the history of Prague is cool. I think it's also really cool that, Prague was right in the middle of everything during World War II, and it looks exactly how it has always looked, because, like, it was one of Hitler's favorite places in the world. So everybody kind of had this understanding of, like, do not mess with Prague or Hitler will find you, and it will not be a good time. So Prague, like, is beautiful, and it's old, and it's just so pretty. Beer is cheaper than water over there. The food is great. The people are really interesting. It was also like,
did you go to the Vyšehrad?
Maybe. Where is that?
The big castle up on the top, like the really old one.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
like, I almost got murdered there. Actually, I didn't almost get murdered, but like I totally went in like the middle of the night with some guy I had met off of Tinder, and like he's like, climb over this fence with me, and I was like, this is either going to be really dope or I'm getting murdered. And he didn't kill me, but I was like, this was close. This was close. But like Prague is one of my
Yeah.
favorite cities.
Prague is so cool. Prague is also like very heavily into the occult, because during the Habsburg Empire, I think it was the Habsburgs, they were being ruled by them, but they were also ruled by the church. And if the king said, yes, this is Gucci, do whatever like this thing is, and the church said no, you had to listen to the church. But the king also did have some power. But there is this little house that was like, the face on it was a pharmacy. And it has a bunch of, I think it has like 4 little underground tunnels. And one tunnel led straight from that church right to this little pharmacy. Another one led out to the woods. Another one led out to where a bunch of like scientists essentially worked. And then one led somewhere else. I don't exactly remember. But you would go in, or you could go in, and it just looked like a pharmacy. And then you go into this back room where the king would go, because he wanted to live forever. So he was always drinking these like strange little elixirs, which is probably why he lasted as long as he did, because the Habsburgs were a bunch of inbred weirdos. So they all died at like a young age. But he lived for a really long time because he was basically drinking all of these herbal remedies, because occultists were like making all of this interesting stuff in their back room. And there was like, it's very heavily into witchcraft and whatnot. So that's cool. But if the church stormed in and found you doing that, people would run through this one tunnel, and it just like dumped you straight into the middle of the forest, and everybody would just like flee from there, which is really cool. The like main bridge to get from like basically Old Prague to New Prague, all of the planets once a year like align directly above that. Like it's a really cool spot. Like,
I didn't know any of that. That's
yeah, like
so cool.
Science was basically invented there, and it was like they're very like Prague is so heavily into alchemy. And I was talking to somebody there in this occultist store, and we were talking about that, and they were talking about alchemy, and then we were talking about chemistry, and they were like, well, yeah, alchemy is the grandmother of science, so it like makes sense. Like, Prague is just a very cool place. I love Prague. It has more parks per capita than any other little city in Europe, and it's the smallest city in Europe. Like, it's so green.
I didn't know it had more parks.
So beautiful. Yeah. Prague is like a super densely forested spot. So I love Prague. I will, anytime I'm in Europe, I will go out of my way to go to Prague. I love Prague.
Okay.
Budapest is also
now
really cool.
Great
Where?
promo for Budapest.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's
love
high on my
Budapest.
list. I would love to go. Yeah.
Budapest is dope.
Everyone says yeah, everyone
Great
says
Budapest
promo
is
for
really cool.
Prague and Budapest. Now, do you have a least favorite place or a story of traveling somewhere that didn't go so well? I mean, it sounds like even when you were in Prague being locked out of your hostel, you just made it part of the adventure.
Oh, that's like the mindset that you have to have, is just like, this is part of the adventure. If you let something get too much like under your skin, you're gonna have a bad time. And if you're traveling, you don't have time to have a bad time. But I did not have a great time in Istanbul, and I'd like to go back to give it another chance. But
yeah.
Because I think Istanbul is so old and it's so beautiful, and the mosques are awesome. The food is great. The people there don't typically like white people, and they're not the biggest fan of queers. So I was not their favorite little mascot to just wander blindly through their country. Nothing bad happened, but I was met with a lot of just like rudeness that I found really unnecessary, and it did make me kind of uncomfortable. So it made me not want to wander around. It kind of made me like hole up in my little spot for the evening and just be like, I'm just gonna stay here because somebody will beat my ass.
yeah.
So I
not
didn't
cool.
or I would go back maybe with like a buddy, because power in numbers kind of a thing. But I would like to give it another chance. I don't want to base my entire opinion of it off of that one not great experience.
Okay, we'll all go. All right, I'll get the hotel. Y'all can stay in the
Redemption
hostel.
tour.
If you don't like it, you just come join me in the hotel. We'll do like a slumber party night. It'll be epic.
I do wonder about that, because I always think like, oh, as a woman, like sometimes I can kind of be a limiting belief in my head about like where to travel and kind of like how to respectfully safely do it, but then also like being visibly queer in other countries, I feel like you must kind of have to have an awareness before you go, like, okay, what am I walking into, how should I be
Yeah,
prepared,
how should I
or just
carry
fuck it.
myself? Yeah, I mean, whenever I go to travel anywhere, even if it's like somebody recommended this to me and I might be getting on a bus 6 hours later, the first thing I'm gonna do is look up how solo women that are traveling in that country are looked at, like how they are okay with that, how it is to be a queer person in that country, and also kind of how it is to be an American in that country, because not all people like Americans, not all people like women, and a lot of people don't like the queers, and also like how the trans community is kind of respected in that country or those places, because I identify as they them, and I think a lot of people kind of look at me and assume that, which is fine. But it's like if it's a place that doesn't like gays and they really hate trans people and whatnot, I'm less likely to go to that place. If it's really cool, I still might go and just be like, hey guys, wish me luck. Um, but it is something that is always in the back of my mind and is the way that I will always look at that first, because I don't want to go and offend somebody simply by existing. And it can be scary. It can be really not good if you're like wandering around this really old place ruled by really old people that hate you for everything that you are. Like that's not a place that you want to go to. So I always look that up. I've
And it's
never
not a
really
place you
had
want to
any
give your
bad. Yeah,
it's not a place you want to give your money to either and like support it. Like
yeah,
honestly, like I'm a big belief in like my brother and I both like stand this way that like I'm not going to go to a communist country. I'm just not like the
yeah,
way that they're typically ruled and treat their people in the country. Like I don't want to support your government by giving my tourist dollars to you, right? And so
yeah,
um it's definitely something that I think like regardless of how you're going to be treating and fucked that you have to consider that when you go places like that's what like is not right. But the other fact is I don't want to support them either, right? Like I don't want them to
yeah.
think that I agree with any of that belief either.
Not going to China anytime soon.
No.
No, not going to do that. I would like
I
to
want to
go
go
to
to
Russia. I
China.
think it would be so cool to go to Russia, but I would get killed in Russia.
I would too, like for different reasons, but like yeah, like I would definitely like and I'll be real, like I smoke pot, so I look
Yeah,
that
you'd
up
be
too.
Brittany
Like
Griner.
yeah, I that's how I'm gonna get kicked out. I know that. Like I went to Ethiopia a few years ago and that was for not like my it wasn't like a pleasure trip. And I definitely like on that trip there had just been a political coup in the country. I was between the palace and the president's house and like it was I remember just thinking like why am I here and like what's the point in it? Like right, like I just felt like I was not in the place I wanted to be like spending my dollars and whatnot. But it's travel. I feel the same way. I would love to go to Russia. There's a lot of like there is a crystal mosque in Iran, like that I would
Ooh,
love to
yeah, I
fucking see. It
know.
sounds so cool. And my friend who's Iranian was like, absolutely not. You should never go there. So
I know. I wanted to go to Tehran, but got to have a dose of respect with your trips. And some places are, they take some real consideration before you find yourself ready to go travel alone in someone else's country.
Yeah, it can be tough and scary.
but I think you have like some good tips there. Like I look up what people think of like solo travelers and Americans oftentimes. Like right, like I often also look up like what is like how do I say thank you at least so I can say like certain like phrases. I know I'm not going to learn a language. Like I also when I was in Prague
Please,
I
thank you,
totally
excuse
butchered
me.
everything. So people were like that's not right. I don't know what you're saying. So
Borscht, borscht.
That
Please do
tired.
Czech is
borscht.
a really difficult language to be able to speak. I like to, if whatever country I'm going to, I like to try and find a couple little phrases to like kind of know how to say. A phrase that is really helpful is "Do you speak English?" in whatever country you're going to, because the other side of that too is like I want to respect your culture. I want to respect your place. I want to try and say a few things in your language, but I also don't want to disrespect you by completely destroying it. So asking like if they know how to speak English, is a really, really solid way to kind of go about that. Or also just learning about the culture before you go there, learning about their customs, learning about, how do you tip in this country? Is it offensive to you if I tip you?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of places in Europe, like mostly everywhere in Europe, like you have to like flag your server down to come to you to give you your thing, or you will be straight up in that restaurant for 6 hours. They will not come up to you. Or like getting a coffee, it's kind of rude to get a coffee to go if you're in France. You get your coffee there, you sit down, you drink your coffee, and you eat your like whatever you've gotten. You finish it, you bring your plate and stuff up, and then you leave. It's like kind of rude to take things on the go in some places because they take so much pride in their food, and they're just like, why aren't you savoring this? Like, why don't you care enough about this food to just like sit for a second? Like, you are not that busy.
That's like when we went to that restaurant, and I think we were in Montreal, and it was like a French restaurant, and Jackie was like, "Can I get the dessert to go?" And he was like, "No, you
Okay,
can't
it was ice
actually."
cream. It was ice cream, and he was like, "But it will." And I was like, "It was in the hotel." I was like, "I just want to bring it up to my room," and he was like, "No, it will not be good there." And I was like, "I like melted ice cream," and he was like, "No."
No.
Or even leftovers. They don't. If you don't finish your meal, that's fine. They would rather have
But
you
their
not finish
portions
your
are
meal
reasonable.
and throw it away.
Mhm.
That's true. But still, even if you're like eating all day kind of a thing and you have a delicious meal and you want to finish the rest of it in a couple hours and you just can't, like, you will be looked down on if you try and have the rest of your meal to go. But yeah, so
That's a
it's
good one
nice
to look up.
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah, like how
thought about
yeah.
that one.
The food, and also like a lot of it too, going back to traveling as a female, is just like, how do people treat women in this country, and what's normal to how to be spoken to and what's not normal. Like people in Rome, men in Rome are wild. They're abrasive and it's a bit much, and it can be really off-putting, and it's really hard to go into some of those situations and just be like, you are being so fucking rude, and on their end of the thing, they're just like, no, this is actually like how I live. This is how we all live. This is like what's normal here. And that their normal doesn't make it great, but their normal is also just like what makes it like that's just normal for them. That's just the way that they behave. So if you're in a place and the way that somebody's behaving is abnormal to you and like kind of pisses you off and you overreact to that, then you are the rude person, and you don't want to be the rude person if you're alone in another country.
Well, and it's like things even like with like spending money. Like when I'm in Mexico, like I normally won't haggle. And I look at this in countries like, will I be taken advantage of if I don't haggle, right? Like, so when I go to Mexico, I freaking haggle because I know that that's what everybody
I'll
does.
Everywhere.
I've seen it in person.
I'll haggle anywhere.
Most places I'm
here.
like, sure. No, I'm like, sure, take my money. But if I looked up like this is the norm in this country, I will try to bring them down because I know that they're going to upcharge me from the start. I'm a pussy. I don't like to fight. I just like want to like I just want to pay the price, walk away, and not be taken advantage of.
The American surcharge.
Yeah. I will haggle. I'll haggle you for anything. If it's a quarter, I'll haggle you for that. Just not necessarily because I just want to pay less, but also because I just want to know if I can do it. Like, I just want to know if I can do it. And if I did it, then, like, amazing. I have succeeded. Great. Another thing, too, is to pay attention to the currency.
I respect
and
that.
learn the currency.
I think that I think we could travel together. We're just going to have to stay in different locations and get around separately. But, like, I think we could be in the same city and hang out.
And walk everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I like to walk. I'll walk.
With the right shoes.
You don't seem very excited about the public transit.
I did purposely leave that out, yes.
That's okay.
Okay. Any last tips or tricks on the journey, the path?
I would say learn the currency for that place wherever you are. Just kind of have like a basic understanding of the currency, so that way when you're looking at the price for something, you know how much to pay. But if you hand somebody a 20 and the thing costs 10, whatever it is, like, you know how much money you're getting back, and you know how to count that money, because a lot of places they're like $1 or $2 essentially piece is in a coin. So like, understand the coins, understand the currency. if you know you're going to be leaving the country a month or 2 months out, order money from that currency from your bank beforehand, because it's going to be cheaper than going to a currency exchange place in that country, because like you're already going to have to pay a currency exchange rate. There's other little charges that are going to come with that, and then you're probably going to get ripped off. So if you have the ability, order your money beforehand and then show up with a little bit of extra money because you may need to do a currency exchange. See if there's like a universal currency that works everywhere kind of a thing. I know different countries sometimes use different ones, but like in Europe, basically everybody also uses the euro. So understand the finances. And then I think what I would say is when you're traveling, the best tool that you have and your best weapon against any kind of anything is just your intuition. Always trust your gut. Like, if you're in a place that feels uncomfortable, if you're talking to somebody that feels uncomfortable, like, leave. You don't owe anybody any kindness. You don't owe anybody anything. You're not going to offend this building if you walk out of it. Like, and if you do offend somebody or something, like, who cares? Just leave. It doesn't matter. You are the most important thing in that scenario.
Preach.
So you need to take care of yourself, because nobody's going to take care of you for you, because you're alone. So just like have your wits about
Preach.
you.
Say it louder for those in the back.
And stay curious. Just be curious. Be open and be curious. And that is what I have for you.
We love the stay curious sentiment. Okay, Jackie, are you ready to hit the road with our new knowledge?
Yeah, I put plus and minus signs next to things that I liked and I didn't like.
Oh, baby wipes are also great because running water.
Oh,
I do agree with that one. I am actually on board with that one. You never know what's going to happen.
You need a rucksack.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with words that things that were said that were foreign to me, which is make friends, do laundry, look up directions, bus stop, hostel, and walking. Those were all things that were foreign to me that I've learned today. I got invest in a good bag and a day bag with a zipper, which I do. Sewing kit. Shut up. Don't do that to me right now. I was on a roll. First aid kit, water bottle, or water bag.
Water bag. It's all about economy of space usage.
Something I'm never going to get. I'm going to try some of these tips. Sunglasses and headphones so people don't bother you, which I do love. That's
you
maybe
already do that in this country.
I do, but I'm going to double down.
Anti-itch cream for your bug bites. I also was thinking probably vaccines. You need to know all your boosters and your vaccines that you need.
24 hours does not mean 24 hours at a hostel all the time, and that's an important information. And when you know that, maybe clock the hotel down the way. Bring
Sleep
your
on
camping
a train.
mattress.
You get an overnight train, right? Oh yes, and camping mattress.
I did like I do trains, and I would do the overnight ride. I actually really liked that idea. I was on board with it.
Thank you.
All aboard. Ryanair. Heard that. Never tried it. That's Europe, right?
Oh,
that's
yeah. Ryanair is basically the Spirit Airlines of Europe. But you can get from one country to another for like £15. It's amazing.
It's I heard, I don't know if it was a joke, but I saw something where it was like Ryanair is now introducing like standing seats where you just like lean back. I don't know if that was real or not, but like
I believe it, but I hope it's a joke.
I hope it's a joke too. World is beautiful and wild, and you should go explore it.
Know the local emergency number.
Oh, that was really good. I've never done that, and that's real smart.
I did get a little mini heat stroke in Spain, and I was like, "How do hospital? Like, don't know. I guess I'll just walk this off."
I love the currency thing. That's something that like I often struggle with, and I try to learn it at the beginning, and then by the end, I'm like, just take my money, give something back to me, please. Trust your gut, and you don't owe anybody anything. If you feel unsafe, get the fuck out. I think that like beyond like your gender or your sexuality or your background, like that's just good advice for anybody, anywhere. Trust your gut. If you feel unsafe, go. That's the most
Where
I've
would
got.
we go, Jackie? What's our location where we could train ride it
Oh,
up?
and get a lock for your bag. Get a
Ooh,
tiny lock. Those are
No,
helpful.
I think we could do like a Southeast Asia train trip.
I would do it. Like your Asia's on my list for next year, so I haven't been to Asia. We're doing Berlin, Pride next year. So if y'all
Right.
want to come, you should join
Ooh,
us.
Berlin is dope.
I haven't been to Berlin,
Berlin
and
is sick.
we're gonna do Amsterdam and Berlin Pride. So it's gonna be Liddy, and it's gonna be like me and 4 chaotic gay men. So it'll be a good time.
That sounds incredible.
But I think
Sounds like so much fun.
also just like have that lackluster, like, or not lackluster, have that luster for life, right? Like go out there and experience it. Like go be curious, like do what brings you like joy. Like I think by traveling, you become the best person that you can. Like you see things, you experience things, and you open up your mind. And everyone should do it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you come back a better person every time.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to plug there, Mel?
I don't know what a plug is. What does a plug mean?
Oh, I guess you have anywhere on social media you want people to find you or not, or
A
maybe
message that you think is beautiful that you want us to know.
Stay curious is honestly my best message. I think it can help you in every area of your life. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if you want to find me on Instagram, it's Lidl_vampire.
I love that.
Thank you. And I think there's a really good resource. Whenever I am like traveling to a place, I will always like look up that place and be like, how do I cheaply travel in this place? Because like I am not the like know-all master. There's a really good resource called Broke Backpacker. So I think that is very helpful.
There's
I was really
always like
And
a
that is
Brokeback Mountain. Is that what you were hoping
Yes,
for?
was it a play on Brokeback Mountain? That's what I want to know.
there's a lot of mountains on their website, so I'm gonna say yes.
I like that. I respect it.
I do love that there's always a crowdsource element of our topics. People are like, yeah, you go to Reddit, you go to, Broke Backpacker, whatever it is. There's someone's been there, done that. So learn from experience. And stay curious is part of the We're Experts Now slogan. So love to
stay
hear
curious.
it.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's go stay curious.
That was great. And that was the show. Thank you everyone for watching, and we hope you stay curious.
If you enjoyed this video, watch our other videos here on YouTube, or you should listen to the episode on We're Experts Now podcast. Bex, where can they find us?
You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartMusic.
And what if they want to talk to us?
If you have ideas for something you want us to investigate, send us an email at we'reexpertspod@gmail.com. That's wereexpertspod@gmail.com.
Great job on that spelling.
Ooh.
A+. Do you do this professionally?
I believe we're both doing it professionally right now.
Wow. People should know about this.
I completely agree. And you can find us on Instagram at We're Experts Now Pod.
Thanks again. And if you enjoy the show, subscribe and comment, and do not forget to leave a 5-star tip.
That's a great idea. Are you a podcast expert?
I think we both are. I think
we're experts now.
This has been a Just Being Better Media production.